please stop doing this. What the f are you doing? Let's get started. Harris and Walz are returning to the campaign trail. What's going on there? Polls are actually showing that the Harris momentum is growing. There is a post-DNC bump, and you can see it now. Here's a Quinnipiac national poll showing Kamala Harris at 49% to Donald Trump's 48%. In their full release, Kamala Harris is up 2 in a multi-candidate field with RFK on the ticket, up 1 in a two-way. Okay, so we are going to, we're gonna be paying some close attention to all that good stuff. You need to understand something. Americans do not make smart choices when they are voting. Part of that reason is because neither party truly represents their best interests, so politics just gets divvied out to team sports. So in a way, it's both the dumbest people that don't vote, and it's also somewhat the smartest people that don't end up voting, even if they recognize why they're not voting, or why, even if they recognize it or not, it doesn't matter. Ultimately, like, I wish more people would get activated to go out and vote, but the reality of the matter is, until either side, and this is specifically the Democrats I'm talking about here, until the Democrats actually actively communicate to broad majorities of the public that if voting for the Democrats will actually genuinely improve their lives, improve their material conditions in a meaningful way, and that the Democrats are actually on board with genuinely improving their lives in a meaningful way. Easy to communicate, easy to understand, responsive policies, right? Until that happens, most people are not going to go out and vote, okay? How do you have so many viewers while having so many L takes? What's your secret? I'm hot. That's what it is. Yeah. It's just like, I think my secret is what you consider to be an L take. 3 months down the line, you will consider to be a W take that you thought about all along, except right now you're resistant and hostile to it. But when it does become the reality, okay, because oftentimes I am right simply too early, okay? There are times when I'm wrong, of course. I'm a human being after all. But oftentimes I'm right. I'm just too early to the game. And most people are inherently hostile to change, inherently hostile to and resist any sort of like change in communication. So they just operate on vibes. And then 12 months later, suddenly hate you and splinter off into a hater community. Of course. Yeah. I suspect this is already a person there, you know? Trump is a dream for the status quo. Every push to make the liberal pass common good policies turned down by if you don't vote for us, vote for him. It's the same in France as 2012. Yeah. Do you think voting because of harm reduction is bad? I don't think voting because of harm reduction is bad. I do think, however, that most people don't vote on that basis, and the Democrats don't do enough to actually engage in harm reduction. The harm that they're reducing gets smaller and smaller every election cycle. And that is partially because harm reduction is the only advocacy that they engage in within their own base. And that's really stupid, because you're just missing a massive, massive amount of people that you could be activating, bringing out to the polls. Chomsky made a good point about voting, and that's something you just do, and then you get back to the real work of organizing and growing a movement. Yeah, it's that voting is still the least consequential, most significant thing you can do, for sure. And I understand the argument that Chomsky is making. Even though he is 850 years old, he was there when democracy was invented. He knows a thing or two about that sort of thing, right? However, having said that, a lot of people don't operate on that basis. This is what I'm simply stating. It's like harm reduction, harm reduction, harm reduction over and over again is not going to carry you across the finish line, okay? Harm reduction didn't carry the Democrats across the finish line because you can't out-compete. You can't out-harm reduction argument your way out of a bad candidate or a bad campaign. Hillary Clinton demonstrated that reality, right? That's precisely the reason why I always say, like, you know, you can say harm reduction all day, every day. This is not one of those communities where that shit's going to fly in general, because I'm analyzing the actual policies and the impact that those policies have on people's lives. I think that the Democratic Party should drop that as well. They dropped the identity politics stuff, and I really do hope that they'll drop this shit eventually as well, because it would be a significantly better way to argue, a significantly better mechanism to draw out more support, more popular support, get more people to vote for you in states where people have completely lost confidence in you, the Democratic Party, if you were to actually advocate for direct policies that help people's lives, okay? The direct policies that help people improve their material conditions. That's what politics is. What are you going to give me at the end of the day is a real simple question that people must ask. And the Democratic Party's response can't simply be, well, we're better than the Republicans, marginally better than the Republicans. You know what I mean? It's just not, it's not going to work. And it doesn't work. Demonstrably, it doesn't work. I don't know the reason why they do this, but Kamala Harris gaining on all of these good polls simply does not carry her across the finish line. If you recall, these are still within the margin of error. That's number one. It just simply shows that momentum is on her, is favoring her at this time. None of these polls actually show that Kamala Harris is definitely winning tomorrow. Okay, this is something that you have to remember. Now, obviously, post-convention bumps don't necessarily immediately lock you in. If that was the case, the caucus would have been president. You know what I mean? Like, I think he got like a 12-point bump after the convention. Obviously, it didn't matter. So even with all of that, even with all of the, like, I obviously do care about polling. I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, it's 2020, polls were misleading. I'm not going to say that. 2016 was the last time that polls were like definitely off base. This shows momentum. That's a good thing. However, even if they showed a massive increase, right, post-convention, for example, it still wouldn't necessarily mean all that much in terms of like what things may look like come November. Okay, I am a poll believer, as in like I do look at polls. I look at and analyze polls on a regular basis come when the election cycle comes around. But having said that, you know, it's not the end all be all. There are examples where people are doing well post convention, get a big bump after convention, and they end up losing. There are examples where obviously you don't see a massive bump post the convention and you end up winning. So why do you think so many down ballot Democrats are polling so much better than Harris in the presidential race? Is that the down ballot Republicans are just worse? In some instances, that is the answer. There's a lot of untested or genuine failures on the Republican side. Untested in the sense that like they have no long-term tenure that you can point to, like Carrie Lake, who is a freak and a weirdo, and like she's gonna get absolutely destroyed in Arizona. You have that guy, the troop that was exploded in Nevada, for example, who's not even from Nevada, but he's like running. Like you have a lot of people on the Republican side that are untested, that don't have any sort of like policy that they can point to, or don't have any tenure that they can point to. They don't really have like a built-in infrastructure for canvassing, and they're just running, and Trump likes them because they're freaks, right? And that is actually part of the reason why in some of these races, the down ballot races are actually performing better than the top of the ticket. Having said that, however, in my opinion, the other reason is because the Kamala Harris campaign is not doing a decent enough job separating themselves from the Joe Biden campaign. There are still a lot of things that are unpopular with the Biden administration that the Harris ticket has not actually communicated their way out of. Nate Silver has an interesting take. Latest Nate Silver forecast, Trump's chances of winning are up +5 electoral votes, with Harris is at 272, Trump 266. Who is favored to win the presidency? Chance each candidate has of winning the electoral college or the popular vote in 2024 presidential election, and our best predictions on the outcome based on 40,000 simulations of our model. Harris's electoral college victory probability is at 47.3%. Trump is at 52.4%. But the popular vote probability, Harris is at 63.8%. The predicted electoral votes that she arrives at is 272. The predicted popular vote share is at 50.3%. Wait, I don't understand how this works, though. Check his PA analysis. It's in one of your tabs. Yeah, I want to see what Pennsylvania looks like, because this race is going to come down to chance of winning is based on Nate Silver's model. Predicted electoral votes is based on just polls. His model thinks Kamala should have had a much larger lead in PA than polls are showing. It's cooking her in his model. Yeah, I think this race is going to obviously come back. This race is going to come down to Pennsylvania, and obviously Trump knows that. They're playing defense in places like North Carolina. They're pumping a little bit in places like Georgia, but ultimately I think it's just, you know, Pennsylvania is the major part of this problem. And she's showing another problem. It's been a while since we've seen a poll showing Harris leading in Pennsylvania. High quality poll showing Harris ahead in PA would make a big difference right now. Weird update today. Harris ticked up slightly in our national polling average, but lost ground in our forecast and is now less than 50% against Donald Trump. One reason is that the model's convention bounce adjustment, which affects the forecast, but not the average. Kamala Harris needs every vote she can possibly pick up. And what I find very frustrating about this, beyond the fact that every time I say at the top of the hour, there's a 3-minute ad break, you guys perk up and it annoys me and it like up my flow. What's endlessly frustrating about the Kamala Harris campaign strategy so far is that there are votes waiting to be picked up. There are votes waiting to be picked up. There is momentum that they can add to the Vibes campaign. However, the areas that they are going after, where they're going after, the people that they're trying to win over to their side are unimaginably stupid. One example I will give you is this. I saw this earlier today. Looks like some marginal voters don't have to try very hard to get meetings, huh? Says Edinger Mentham. Here it is. Haley Voters Working Group. Thank you to the Harris campaign for joining our group for the 3rd time tonight. We've appreciated your engagement and the time you've shared with us, respectfully discussing how to win over Haley voters on the fence. I am losing my mind. What are you doing? There are hundreds of thousands of people in every single state that you are currently either barely defeating Donald Trump on or losing to Donald Trump on, depending on which poll you're looking at. And they are straight up going after a group of like 50 voters of a candidate who has endorsed Donald Trump. Please stop doing this. What the are you doing? Are you insane? What are you doing? Who's running the show? Monkeys that are just like hitting cymbals? Is that what's going on? Just a bunch of animals up there just playing with dials? Who's doing this? What the I'm losing my mind, dude. Holy shit. And it's additionally strange, and I will keep repeating this over and over and over again. The original momentum that happened from Biden losing the election to Donald Trump to Kamala Harris having a chance of defeating Donald Trump, that only happened because they did progressive shit, okay? They responded to public pressure, and lo and behold, people like that sort of thing. Making it seem as though you have a commitment to the democratic process, turns out, makes people feel pretty enthusiastic. What the are we doing here? This is old school, dumbass, I want to lose bullshit, Kaya Place. Like, I don't get it. I don't get it. How do you end up doing something? How do you end up making decisions that actually are bangers, okay? And you immediately get this big boost. You get this response. So many people doubt your ability to finally like take this bold step forward and actually get like noticeable and immediate changes in the way that people view the campaign. And then you just go, okay, we're done. We did enough. Like, I don't understand it. This does not mean that the Kamala Harris campaign is going to lose. Okay. I'm not saying that at all. They are doing very well so far, but that can change. While they have the foot on the gas, they should be pumping it even harder instead of trying to desperately cut away at this momentum. Walz is outstanding, best VP pick of my life. I know. That's why I don't get it. I don't get it. Why the did you do that? If they had went with Josh Shapiro, I'd be like, this is classic Democratic Party shit. You know, they went with what they perceive as the safe choice, even though it's not a safe choice. But what they perceive was like the calculated safe choice, somewhat conservative governor in a key state that they have to win. It's a must-win state. And they didn't do that, which locked them into at least messaging around progressive policies. So I don't understand why the they're like not continuing along with that agenda. Haas, what don't you get? Dems want to win, but in a certain way because they run by their donors. It's fine. Modeling your election strategy off of likely Republican voters is insane to me. They didn't pick the guy for VP who was massively popular in Pennsylvania. Yeah, dude, you're right. You're right, dude. Massively popular in Pennsylvania. Like, he's popular, dude. I wouldn't go as far as to say he's massively popular. He ran against a freak.